Now there's one important question about the role of women in the battle of Uhud. As we know, women in Islam are not allowed to participate in the battlefield and kill men. This is something that Islam banned. To protect women and the dignity of women, they are not to go out on the battlefield and fight the men. But we do see women in the battlefield fighting, such as Amr, Nasiba, as we examined last week. She actually carried a sword and she was defending the Prophet ﷺ. So how do we reconcile that? Islam made it very clear to women that they are not obligated to go to jihad. In fact, they should not go and fight on the battlefield. Once a woman in Medina objected to the Prophet. Asma bint Yazid al-Ansari or al-Ansariya, she was a woman from the Ansar tribe. We talked about her before. Remember when she objected to the Prophet, she told him, Ya Rasulullah, that's not fair. Men have the honor of going to fight and defend Islam and they can become martyrs and they achieve this high status. What about us women who stay at home and do all the chores at home and we take care of the children, we take care of the family? How come we don't get this honor? The Prophet ﷺ made his famous statement. According to one tradition, he said, she's really an educated woman. She knows how to talk. She was even considered a khatiba, a speaker who gives a speech. That's how eloquent she was. So the Prophet ﷺ says, women also have their jihad. And their jihad is basically to take care of their family. If they act responsibly, they raise righteous children, they're good to their husbands, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them the same exact reward that He gives men who die in the battlefield. At that point, she was so happy. She's like, I have the best gift in my hand now. She went to her house and she was very happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give women such a great reward. Having said that, we do see that some women came from Medina to Uhud. Initially, those few women who came, for example, Safiya, the aunt of the Prophet ﷺ, she was also there. Initially, when they came to Uhud, their intention was not to fight. They came there to assist the army of the Prophet ﷺ, because basically those women had relatives. They either had a son, a father, a husband who was fighting. So they went there to serve their relatives in the army of the Prophet ﷺ. If they needed water, they would give them water. They would help them carry maybe some, weapons. Or if they would get injured, they would help them treat their wounds. So when they went to Uhud, their intention was not to fight. Their intention was just to help their relatives, those who were mahram to them, in the battlefield. But then, when some of them, like Nasiba, when Amr, Nasiba, she realized that the companions abandoned the Prophet ﷺ, as we discussed last week, and she saw that the enemy was getting very close to the Prophet, then she found it her obligation to ward off the enemy, even to fight, and she did fight. She carried a sword and she did fight, and she even sustained an injury. By the way, she narrates something really funny that happened in the battlefield. The Prophet ﷺ saw one of his companions flee. He was running away from the battlefield. The Prophet told him, okay, now that you're fleeing, at least keep your armor behind. Let us use your armor. Now that you're fleeing, whatever weapon you have, at least keep it here. Don't run with your armor. So he took off his armor and he threw it. Nasiba, she picked it up and she picked up his weapon and she started defending the Prophet ﷺ. So it was not their intention to fight. But when great women like Nasiba, she saw that the Prophet is almost being killed, of course it becomes an obligation to defend Rasulullah ﷺ. So that's how we can address the objection. If jihad is not permissible for women in the battlefield, then how come some of them went and they participated? It was not their intent to participate, but when the men became cowards and they fled and they abandoned the Prophet, And this faithful woman saw the Prophet, and her son was there too, by the way. She saw the Prophet there. Of course, she took it upon herself to defend, and the Prophet ﷺ really prayed for her, and he prayed for her family. But really, these women did play a significant role on the day of Uhud, and we as Muslims, we should remember the legacy of these amazing women.